Welcome to Know Your Insurance. Today is a very special program. As you can see, we have with us three very hardworking and unique individuals, and I think it's very important that we tie the people who serve us so hard to this insurance show, because they help prevent the disasters and they help you to deal with them. And so today we have the Leshko boys from McAdoo. Boys, welcome very much. I know you as boys, I know you all my life. But again, a big reason why we have the Leshkos, firefighting, emergency training goes very deep in the family. This is a long time thing for the Leshko family. Their dad was fire chief in McAdoo, and they continued that tradition on the small end and in the city. And I think we all need to just understand what they do. So first we have with us, next to me is Dan, and Dan is the captain of the McAdoo Fire Company. And just so you know what he does for a living, he's an RN on the medevac. So if you wonder 24 hours what he's doing, every minute of every day he's out there serving us on the emergency side. Next to him is Donald, and Don is the chief of the Hazleton Fire Department. And if you haven't seen his face before, then you probably haven't lived in Hazleton or haven't been here. But Don gives it his all, and every time something's going on in Hazleton, emergency-wise, I think we see him out there. And last but not least, we have the senior brother, and that's Bobby. And Bob is the chief of McAdoo Fire Company. 33 years in fighting fires and in emergency work. Bob is a respiratory therapist at Lehigh Valley Hospital. So that's, again, all his life is dedicated to serving you, the public. So let's start. Bobby, let's just go to you first, and let's talk about what's happening in McAdoo.
Well, presently in McAdoo, we're moving towards merging with the Tresco and Keystone Fire Companies. So we've been doing a lot of work lately, just trying to be able to get that done and moving forward so we can provide better service to the people of the area and more cost effective. As long as us always looking out to help prevent issues, we look to be cost effective too, because the people support us in a very generous way, so we want to make sure what they're giving us, we're also using in the correct manner to be able to go out and support them. So at the present time, everything is working well with our merger. All three companies are presently working together. We're responding on all calls together and everything. So we're hoping early sometime next year, 2015, that everything will be complete with our merger.
Well, and you had a merger a while back with Klein, correct?
Well, we actually, what happened in Klein is their fire company became defunct, and we have a contract with the Klein Township to provide fire protection. So we've been providing fire protection to the residents of Klein Township since their fire company was dissolved, and we've been doing it ever since. So we're up for a new contract right now. We're finishing our negotiations, and we believe we'll be proceeding forward with all of that. So we have a very big part of what we cover, that whole south side area.
Are there any problems that you see out there with this merger covering the big area, problems getting to a fire, getting to an emergency?
I don't think we're going to have any problems, because at the present time we're going to be keeping all of our stations. And once we do try to go under one roof, we're going to try to get it centralized, so we're sort of in the middle of how far we have to go in Klein Township to how far we have to go in Banks Township. There's going to be a little changes for us since we didn't really cover some of those outlying Banks Township areas, but all their members that are active in the fire company will be coming over with it. So I don't foresee us having a problem, and we're still going to have their station. We're still going to have Keystone Station. So we're going to have all the stations for right now. So I don't foresee that there'll be any issues in us getting anywhere in a very timely manner. But the big thing of why we did it too is because nobody's knocking on the doors to want to become a volunteer anymore. So we needed to be able to be proactive, look out for the future, because none of us are getting any younger, to be able to see what we can do to be able to make sure we're putting out the most trained along with a fair number of people to each and every emergency call. And this is a way that we're going to be able to continue doing that and serving the residents of the entire area.
Wow, that's great. We're going to come back to how it affects our insureds and the viewers out there. We'll come back to that, but let's talk to Don a little bit. Don, what are you seeing in Hazleton? And what this has been a big change, from many years back. I mean, what has changed so much in your business?
The amazing part is when I was hired in the city of Hazleton, we ran on the average of about 180 some responses a year. Right now, currently this year, I was hired in 2001. Right now, in 2014, we're currently at about 850 responses a year. And that number, that's as of today, I see that number reaching close to 1,000 by the end of the year. Our responses have increased dramatically. It's just, you're seeing a multitude of responses, between fires, cooking incidents, carbon monoxide alarms, motor vehicle accidents, a lot of motor vehicle accidents. And just the everyday incidents that, bottom line is, when no one else will help them, the normal day resident dials 911. When they call 911, when they call for help and no one can give them assistance, they call for the fire department. And that's who gets a burden. And I don't think that only happens in Hazleton, it happens in every community.
Wow. Don, talk about the uniqueness with paid firefighters and volunteers, because this is unique in Hazleton.
Yeah, we have a unique setup. We have a combination department. So what we have is there's 21 paid firefighters on duty, 24/7, 365 days a year. I have always 2 engines and a ladder, sometimes 3 engines and a ladder truck up, plus a chief on duty, around the clock. Plus I have my volunteers. So what it means is when a incident happens in the city, when you dial 911 call for the fire department, my firefighters are at the stations. They're on their way with the apparatus. They're on their way responding with the apparatus, getting on scene and meeting the volunteers there. And it's a great system. It works out very well for us. And it does has tremendous impact on our response, and plus on our impact of fighting any incident or dealing with any incident.
Wow. That's awesome. Okay. We have a few seconds left. When we come back, we're going to talk with Dan a little bit about what he does and his impact in McAdoo. Dan has done a great job with the use of ISO and the new rating structures that insurance companies use, and I think he's going to be able to touch a little bit on that. So we'll be back in a few moments with Know Your Insurance. Welcome back to Know Your Insurance, and we're here with the Leshko boys, professionals, true professionals in emergency services. We're going to just segment now to the area of ISO, and for many of you, you probably say, "What is that? Doesn't mean anything to me." This is a very important segment. I would ask you all to listen, because the ISO rating that insurance companies use to determine your rates has a lot to do with the fire company, the quality of the people the quality of the fire companies who go out there and protect you, the water supply, and there's several other factors, and we're going to cover that. And that's going to lead me to Dan. Dan, you were very instrumental. In the last 12 months, the last 15 months or so, we had a lot of questions regarding ISO, because most insurance companies made that major shift and said, okay, you are Before we were just saying how close were you to a fire hydrant, how close were you to a fire department, and that's pretty much how they were rating you. Now ISO comes into play, and it's now the quality. There's a lot of things out there. Would you touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, not only being a volunteer firefighter, I'm also an insurance customer. So in my flight, what I ended up finding out was when we indulged this as an organization, we found that I live in Klein Township. The organization that was out there had our township divided into two different areas, despite the fact that there was only one fire company and the same fire company providing protection. And you may go and ask why that, affects you is not only affected me, because my rates were considerably higher than the next little portion of the township over from me. So that's when I started lobbying with Gary to have these organizations, and we as the fire company in McAdoo, along with our officer membership, went there, got our towns and coverage area reevaluated, and in turn not only truly was able to show the reflection of fire protection they have, but in a relation to you as the customer, drops your rates. So it puts money in your pocket. So we basically took credit for what we do and presented that to ISO, making a pretty big impact for the residents we protect.
That's great. And then this is for either the three of you. What is it about the quality of fire protection that affects ISO?
Well, I'll start with that. I think the first thing is there's some very basic areas that they take a look at is, one, how close are you to a said fire company? The next component it will ask you is how close are you to a water supply, because when you take a look at those two basic foundation levels, they are the key to protection. But I'm going to have my brothers comment on where they take it to the next level and what may mean the difference between certain ISO levels.
Okay.
Another main issue in the ISO diagram is just training of your fire department, training of your members, the amount of your apparatus, the amount of hose you carry, and also another big question is water supply. The last time the city went under an ISO review was a few years ago. Our water supply was in that medium area. Since that time, with the help of the Water Authority, they've greatly increased our capacity with new hydrant systems, a new tank system, and all that. So a lot of that is flow of your hydrants, how much water you can get on a fire in a time period, and effectively how fast you can get that operation in progress. That's another main reason of what our ISO goes.
Can I ask you just real quick, Bobby, tell our listening audience, and what is ISO?
Well, ISO is the Insurance Service Organization, and they're an organization that actually goes out there and does all the ratings, and it's not just in Pennsylvania. They do it across the entire United States, rating fire departments for insurance companies. So the insurance companies look to them for ratings. And the ISO rating goes from a 1, which is best, to a 9, which is worst. The unfortunate part in there that some people have, that fire departments really don't have a control over, is if you don't have an established water source in your community, and I will take some of the residents of Banks Township, because we are going through this now in part of our merger. They are a 9, and unfortunately, things can't change there right now. Klein Township had that in some of theirs also when we just did it. But in the last ISO review, when I spoke with them and with McAdoo and with the representative from that organization, we were able to combine them in with McAdoo and make it one general area. So that was able to drop McAdoo, who was a 7, and Klein Township, who was a 9, down to 4s. We became a 4 rating. So that's a significant savings passed on to the homeowner for what they did. Which it was a lot of work on our part coming in, and that's where people sometimes look at, why are they out there testing fire hydrants? Why do they look at that? Well, some of this is the reason why, not only for knowing our own knowledge of how much water we may get out of a fire hydrant at a specific fire, but when they come in and look at you, they want to know those flow ratings. They want to make sure they're being done every 2 years. That's the kind of stuff they want to look at, along with your training and the type of apparatus for the buildings you have in your community. So they have a very broad range of what they look at, and it doesn't matter whether you're career, volunteer, we all fall under the same standard, and that's what they look at when they're doing all of us.
Wow. Let's talk about some of the training. What does it take to be a firefighter, whether it be a volunteer firefighter or a paid fire driver? What does it take?
Well, you know, for some career people, depending on where you go, when you move to the bigger cities, New York, Philadelphia, one of our guys just went to Virginia Beach, so they have their own academies. Even though you may have training, they want to train you to how they're performing right now. For us as volunteers in the state of Pennsylvania, there's technically a set standard of training, which is called an Essential of Firefighters, which goes anywhere between 166 to 188 hours of training. And that is, for a volunteer, that is all on your own time. So as you're now trying to commit to your family life, commit to whatever fundraising you may have to do around the firehouse, and now to training, it becomes a whole lot of training that has to be done. And there is a lot of standards in the state of Pennsylvania that are trying to be met for people to do it, along with hazmat and the other firefighter training.
Wow. So, like, what are some of the things that you train on?
Well, you'll train on hose movement, water movement, ladders, how to rescue people, how to identify hazardous situations, how to stay calm in case of a situation where you as a firefighter become trapped. So there's a wide variety of things that we are training on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis.
Awesome. And I think where we bring this together, this ISO, how does it affect you? The quality of the fire department. And if I could sum this segment up, it's God bless our firefighters. They go out there day in, day out. They get up in the middle of the night and they go out there and work hard to keep us safe. And we'll be right back with Know Your Insurance. Welcome back to Know Your Insurance, to this very, very important and unique show. We have the Leshko boys with us, and they've been giving us a lot of information as to how we can prevent, and things that happen that have effect on your policy. Some indirectly, some directly. Let's talk now about prevention, okay? And Dan, we're going to come to you. What are your thoughts on what would be the first thing you would think of in preventing the disaster from happening?
Well, we're, just leaving the month of October, which is historically known as Fire Prevention Month in our country, is I think the first thing people realize is that fire prevention needs to happen every single day of the year. We in the fire service have realized that the best way of managing these types of incidents is actually prevention. And there are several different tools that we try and do. The fire departments in the area very aggressively start very young, teach early, basic tools of stop, drop, and roll, exercises, drills. Our school district system on a regular basis does fire drills in the school systems. And historically, we have realized that when you take a look at these components, they have proved to be immensely important to the schools in our country. And the one thing is that you don't realize is that people aren't doing it in their house. When you take a structure component of a drill and an exercise and practice in what we do in the schools, we need to bring that into our homes, do the same thing. It doesn't matter if you have kids, don't have kids. Practice makes perfect. And the last thing that you ever want to do is be unprepared if this emergency does hit you. The way you get very good at doing this is doing it when you don't have the confines of heat, smoke, being disoriented, you need to be able to run through this practice, like it's second nature to you.
Wow. Sounds like parents, this is a great conversation with your kids. Fire drill at school, first of all, is not a time to get to have recess, and then practice it at home. If you're on a second floor, things like that, what do you do? Great tips. Thank you. Donald, I think we want to talk about carbon monoxide.
Yeah, we all know, Gary, this time of year is the heating season. So we're coming upon, everyone's turning on their heating units for the first time. It's so important to stress the importance of having a working carbon monoxide detector, that it's in your house. We've got to remember carbon monoxide is odorless, it's tasteless, it's colorless. It's a silent killer. So it's all important that, every year at this time you're getting your heating unit serviced, you're getting your chimney checked. We do know that, we've seen throughout the past couple of years, especially with the big changeover from, oil or coal heat to natural gas heat, people are still using their same furnaces or just changing the guns out in those units, but they're also using the same chimneys. And in that time period, a reputable heating technician will tell you must have your chimney inspected, you must have it cleaned before you start using that natural gas, because when the natural gas is combustion, it is putting off a little bit more moisture into the chimney area, which all that creosote that's built up over those years is falling down and actually can clog your chimney. We've seen that in the city numerous times over the past year. So we recommend, most importantly, make sure you have a working carbon monoxide detector, make sure you have your heating unit serviced, and make sure you have your chimney checked. As I always tell people, as you're getting your car serviced every 3,000, 4,000 miles, take that one time a year to get your heating unit serviced.
Wow. Great advice. And this just hits home real quick. And I could tell a quick story. 2 weeks ago, I had the switch over for my gas furnace. And the technician called me down to look at it and said he opened up a door and it was just a little tool. You can see the smoke coming out. And he said, that's carbon monoxide. That could kill you. So I was probably 2 weeks away. If we would have just started up the furnace and said, okay, everything's normal, we're probably 2 weeks away from a disaster. And it turned out we needed a whole new furnace system in the home. And thank goodness for our plumbing and heating contractor. He took care of it, but it can be something that happens to anyone. And I think the whole moral here is, at the end of last spring, we took the carbon monoxide detectors out because they weren't working, and we hadn't replaced them. So 3 floors, needless to say, after this, we went out and replaced 3 of them. So this is a great time to make sure that's up to date. Bobby, what are we missing?
The last thing I think is one of the things is smoke detectors. We in McAdoo at times and across through Schuylkill County, through our Fire Chiefs Association, we've been able to give out free smoke detectors in conjunction with some of the TV stations. This year, unfortunately, through some recalls and everything else, the smoke detectors have not come to the fire companies like they have. So when people call me and I tell them we don't have any, my always comment to them is, I would not wait because you can't put a price on somebody's life. I would just go out and buy them. And when people also ask us, well, how many should we have? We always recommend at least 1 on every floor and or 1 in each of your bedrooms. And that's how we've always done it. And people tend to, they're cheap for what it costs. $30. You can get a carbon monoxide smoke combination alarm and be able to have that in your home. So I always recommend people go out and buy them. The other thing that I would recommend people to do with small children, and this was a 2020 piece that was done months ago. They actually did a video of smoke detectors going off in homes and children not responding to them. So this would be a big surprise to families if they just went one night in the middle of the night and pushed their smoke detector, not to go and say scare their children, but to see if they got any movement, if their children even would wake up. So that's just a little test that I always recommend to people to go and try. But an ounce of prevention provides miles of savings in the long run. So smoke detectors, carbon monoxide alarms, all the prevention is what helps you stay alive and get out of a home safe. And that's what we always say is once those alarms go off, don't wait. Don't think it's a battery. Move along and get out of the home.
Great, great information. Okay, so the name of the show is Know Your Insurance. How do we tie this? We're talking about fire prevention. How do we tie this to your insurance policy? Well, first of all, everything that we talked about today has effects on the rates of your policy. ISO has a big effect on it. Where you're at. If you're out there, you're looking to buy a house, make sure you're in a good fire rated territory. Then secondly, what can you do to prevent a disaster from happening? Go out there, make sure you have carbon monoxide detectors. Make sure they work. Make sure you have smoke detectors. They tell us when the time changes from daylight savings to standard time, it's a great time to replace the batteries. Go out there and do it now. If you haven't done that, go out there and replace them. But more importantly, when you do have these, when you have a fire extinguisher, smoke detector, deadbolts on your doors, they do have major effect on the rate for your insurance. Go out there and do it. Everyone gains from everything that the boys talked to us about today. And I so much appreciate you taking the time to come on with us. And, before we close this show, I'd just like to first say thank you to you. Thank you to all you do. And thank you to all of our firefighters, volunteer and paid, for all the hard work. Thank you for all the emergency personnel, for all that you do to keep us safe, to save lives out there. Today's a day, it's kind of like a bittersweet, but Bobby, you had a young man that was a firefighter and just left us too soon. And we want to dedicate this show to Aaron Leshko. And Bobby, would you just care to please tell us what happened to Aaron? And
Aaron passed away at the age of 18. He had what was called Band's disease, which for a very quick thing, it builds up fatty material in your nerves. So it takes away part of your nervous system. This past August, we were on vacation. Everything was going well, to our family having to come home to put Aaron on hospice because of the very fast progression of his disease, which really surprised us all. But through our own family and the support of everybody, Aaron's now in a better place, and we still truly miss him, and we think about him every day. But we've had years of memories, and nothing will ever take any of those memories away.
Well, God bless Aaron. We hope you're watching over all of the emergency personnel out there. I know you have a pool up there. And before we close the show, we always touch on the kindness revolution. The kindness revolution is, please come in and get your wristband. All it is asking you to do something kind for someone. Doesn't have to be someone you know. Could be a stranger. It could be a family member. It could be a spouse. We ask you to do something kind and pass it on to someone. And we'll be back with another segment of Know Your Insurance real soon. We're going to talk more about property. But we appreciate you listening. We appreciate what our firefighters do for us. And thank you for coming on.